Hello, like 3 subscribers. I've been on rants about the game Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks a few times, and about how I never wanted to touch again. What I'm gonna do here today, or like 4 months ago, is finish what I started and put reasoning behind it. Hopefully, in doing so, I'll convince you why it's bad. I want to start with the fact that I am baffled by the fact that IGN rates the game at 9.3, while its predecessor for the Phantom Hourglass got a 9.0, saying that Spirit Tracks was an improvement. I disagree. So I'll start by setting the scene for you. I finished the Phantom Hourglass and have a DSi, so I look to the Legend of Zelda wiki to find out what else I can play. Not much. But I find another game that I can play, and it's about trains! A bit of time passes, and I get the game. I start to play it, and almost immediately, I don't like it. Why, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. I'll start with the controls. All motion is controlled by using the stylus on the screen. You use the D-pad for nothing. It gets awkward to move around, and it's weird for the DS games to control so differently compared to all previous and post games. But whatever, it's kinda acceptable. What's not acceptable is that it essentially points out in Phantom Hourglass how they tried then to use the D-pad controls, but couldn't or didn't and said to give them a chance. It wasn't fun. When did Spirit Tracks come out? 2 years later, and they didn't even try to fix it. Another new thing is the Spirit Flute. Like the Ocarina of Time and the Harp of Ages, you have to play it in order to do some game stuff. I ran into issues with it right before the final temple in the Sand Realm. The song you needed to play had a note skip in it, and I would play it as best I could, and it sounded exactly like what I was supposed to play, but it said I was doing it completely wrong. I had to consult a walkthrough and found out that it didn't need to sound like the song, but I had to hit the notes individually without slurring them. The song didn't sound right, but it was right. It's just a minor issue, but it affects the final battle too. I'll get to that last because it combines just so much bad. But I'm getting ahead of myself. In Spirit Tracks, they also added a need to control a Phantom Zelda, which adds an unnecessary difficulty by the fact that Zelda controls slowly and terribly. In one of the last boss battles against Chancellor Cole, she just needs to go down a straight line. That will take you a good 3 minutes to do the first time, because the farthest she will go is just short of where she needs to be. You can't make her just walk forward. All the while, Chancellor Cole is creating these ghost mice things, which Zelda is scared of, and she will stop when they get near her, and Cole will take control of her if they touch her. Trying to make Zelda, who doesn't listen, walk forward while also defending her from mice, the most fearsome foe, is a terrible combination. And you know what happens if you miss the moving target at the end with your bow, because Zelda can't hold still? You start all over again. Fun. Let me move on to the overworld and dungeons. Prior to the previous games in the chronology, Hyrule was flooded by the Great Sea to protect the remaining world from Ganon's return. As such, the transportation from place to place was by boat. After the events of Phantom Hourglass, Tetra, Zelda's descendant in Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass, finds and becomes the ruler of a newfound landmass. 100 years later, the Spirit Tracks have been laid for train travel across this great land. And that's where the problem is. The overworld is now restrained to moving on confined tracks, as opposed to free travel across the seas. Travel is slow and there isn't a good way of fast travel. And while the boat had automatic braking, you will have to automatically brake your train 5 seconds before you need to stop, which is annoying after the necessity to do so many stations. Also, there are these tank enemies that show up and then they just slow your game down noticeably. That's not what Zelda does. The boat was so much better. And remember that train? Yes, it's easier to get the best parts for it, but the things you need to get are expensive or hard to find. But you can't sell the materials you get because you need them to upgrade your train. So what do? You either grind by murdering the local wildlife for a few hours, or you could just cheat like I did. No way this game is going to make me be here longer than I have to. It's just not a fun mechanic. There are also rabbits. I hate them. Okay, I have to explain the dungeon mechanics that are bad now. My main issue is the necessary ability to pick up chestnuts and arrow orbs. The thing about the Phantom Hourglass is you can't do that. Spirit Tracks added a new ability, but it doesn't teach you about it. I go to the first dungeon and I get stuck on the first puzzle, which is throwing a chestnut across an abyss. For 15 minutes I'm looking around for anything I may have missed, and then I had to check a walkthrough on the first obstacle. This game just threw a necessary thing at me that you absolutely couldn't do in the closest related game without telling me. You know what time it is now? Final boss time! There are definitely spoilers here, but I'm preventing you from needing to go through this yourself. First, you must go to the Dark Realm, the world of the Demon King Maladus, after beating the 5 temples and obtaining the Light Compass from the Tower of Spirits. I have no idea how you couldn't notice it before, because you can see it from anywhere in this forest realm, but sure. You enter his realm, but to gain further access, you must defeat armored trains with the use of some Tears of Light. I have absolutely no idea how the Tears of Light got there, in the realm of darkness. Mind you, you can do absolutely no harm to dark or armored trains until right now. Before they hit you, you die, no questions, restart. I died so many times to them. This was actually the first game that compelled me to throw my DS on the ground in anger. Not the only game, but that's another story that I could have potentially shared already. You deal with these things, and then you fight the demon train. It's not hard, but you switch amongst parallel tracks that wasn't a thing before. Then the aforementioned battle with Cole. And then the final battle. It embodies all the problems with the game so far. All of them. The awkward touchscreen controls, the broken spirit flute, and the horrible Zelda AI. After Maladus takes over Cole's body, because Zelda gets reclaimed finally, he is vulnerable. To weaken him enough to reveal his weak point, Zelda must channel the power of the spirits. You now have to protect an unmoving being from an onslaught of about 36 or so rocks by deflecting them with your sword. The difficulty comes from the fact that the touchscreen swiping isn't always responsive, and you'll just sometimes roll when you swipe, which is very bad. And when Zelda gets hit, you restart. It took me about 25 times to get through this the first time, and I never actually got to defeating him on video. Oops. But now, it's time for the Spirit Flute duet. It's pretty, but the issue is the note skip. I've been over this, and now it's time to protect Zelda while she shoots the newly revealed weak spot. You have to make her shoot, by the way, and move. She finally hits him 3 times, and a true ruby weak spot is revealed. But Maladus' horns are in the way. You have to break those. 3 more arrows from Zelda, and you have his horns broken. 1 more hit for good measure, and he's down. And here's just where it gets sad. You have to stab the ruby and parry the strongest thing in the game until Zelda decides to get over and help you, with no sense of urgency whatsoever. You kill him and the world is saved. There's not a lot for you to do after this. There's no post-game to either DS title, so you no longer have to deal with this bad game. If I've been here saying nothing else, don't buy this game. The Oracle ones are so much better, and you can get both of them for cheaper than Spirit Tracks as 3DSware. IGN says it likes this game more because the difficulty is harder. By harder, it means you'll be standing somewhere wondering, what do I do? A lot. I don't like the original Zelda for the very same reason. You were taught nothing. And by the difficulty logic, the new A Link Between Worlds is the worst Zelda game. The game is super simple, and I beat it twice without ever having to think very hard. Their rating? 9.4. I think I'm done here. Don't buy this game.